I've always been a very hands-on person, and I like the beauty of a machine that is well put together. I'm excited to work here because we are building a state-of-the-art particle accelerator in order to make medical radioisotopes more available for cancer treatments. I want to build something that matters, and this is something that matters. Being a member of IEEE, there's a whole community of people who are interested in what you're interested in. IEEE USA is my competitive edge.
Hi, everyone. This is Eric Heilman, Director of Government Relations for IEEE USA, and this is your Washington update for Thursday, November 9th. I'm actually coming to you in the past. I'm recording this on Wednesday, the evening of Wednesday the 8th, as I've got some travel obligations. But hopefully everything that you're watching here will still be pretty relevant by the time you see this. Unfortunately, you will not be able to ask live questions, but you can always contact me. My email will be at the end of this. So let's get right into it. On everybody's radar here, and the topic that has sort of been the drum that we've been beating for some time now is, will the government shut down? Things have taken a little bit of an interesting twist since the House finally decided on a new speaker. And all eyes, the whole spotlight, everybody interested in this conversation and the outcome of this saga will be focused on him. As you know, the new deadline is the 17th, which happens to be the same day that the IEEE board will be meeting here in Washington, D.C. So they should have a very interesting day here in D.C. The Congress had delayed that date from the end of the fiscal year and punted on that until the 17th. So we are now less than 10 days away from that with no real sign that a deal is going to come together. As a reminder, these are the major players, and they are no stranger to you in terms of who these people are and what their roles are. Everybody, like I said, is going to be watching the speaker. This is only his second week on the job. He comes from a very green position in terms of being able to negotiate a very high stakes deal like this. And there's a lot of questions as to how he's going to navigate this. My best guess at this point is that we are headed for yet another punt, another continuing resolution where they move the date again to keep the negotiations going. Whether that goes another couple of weeks, another month or so, or into the next year is still anybody's guess right now. But every day that gets closer to the 17th, there are some new wrinkles and twists and a little bit of added intrigue that we are watching. This jumped out at me this morning. I was reading Punchbowl News, which is an Inside the Beltway publication for us political and policy wonks. As you will recall, Speaker Johnson was elected from the far right wing of the House Republicans, and there will be a lot of pressure on him to represent the views of that particular faction. And frankly, that faction has very rarely in recent years shown an interest in negotiating and giving in on positions that it thinks are important. That, in my opinion, tends to be a recipe for a shutdown. And I thought it was very interesting that this congressman from Arizona, who comes from that right flank of the House Republicans, used this phrase or said this word in a quote that he gave. That last word right there is, I don't believe he is transactional. In other words, they don't want him to be transactional. I'm not sure how you can negotiate with the Democrats in the Senate, the White House controlled by the Democrats, as well as the moderates within your own House Republican conference, if you're not willing to transact and to deal. This is why I really do believe we're headed for another shutdown, and I'm not alone. I saw this poll come out a day or two ago. K Street leaders, for whoever those are, I was not polled. These are sort of considered the inside the Beltway lobbyist advocacy industry, folks who work in and around Capitol Hill, transact with members of Congress, understand the legislative process. Many of them are former members of Congress themselves. Most of us, and I would probably be in this camp, tend to believe that we will have a shutdown before the end of the year. So watch this space. By the time we do this next update, we may or may not have a functioning government. But as each day goes forward, there are new developments that we are tracking. Because at the end of the day, This affects us. This affects all of you. This affects our members, many of whom are federal government employees and will be directly impacted. And obviously, we're heading towards the holidays where people like to spend money, like to travel. So you're going to start to see a lot of political pressure and a lot more attention on this at a national level. In the meantime, policy continues, and there is no policy right now, at least in the tech space, that is hotter and more active than AI. I know I've mentioned this in the past, but things have really ratcheted up in the last couple of weeks. And just since our last update, we've seen a massive uptick in activity at the policy and legislative level around AI. The first big action event was last week when the president issued a very sweeping executive order on AI. We and all of our members who follow this are looking closely at this document. There's a lot in here that we are delving through, but it touches on new reporting requirements. There's IP issues in there. It touches on healthcare, education, transportation, labor and employment, tech services. There's a whole new White House council created. It really does try to be an all-encompassing policy proposal from the White House, from the executive branch on AI. Where this goes and what this means is still very much up for debate, and a lot of the news sources are starting to already tease apart some thoughts and concerns that many have. Now, when you have a huge executive order that comes out of the White House on a very large and prominent policy issue, you often see legislation being introduced from Congress to sort of dovetail or even coordinate with that. And that's exactly what we saw. That same day, or I guess it was a couple days later, legislation that IEEE-USA and our members have been involved in terms of providing some guidance and input during its drafting was finally released. Senator Warner, Democrat from Virginia, and Senator Moran, a Republican from Kansas, have teamed up on a bipartisan bill called the Federal Artificial Intelligence Risk Management Act. IEEE-USA and our executive director, Russ Harrison, have been very supportive. There's a quote here from Russ that was a part of the press packet to go out from both Senator Warner and Senator Moran. And I think the number of news outlets picked up our quotes. So we're very happy to be a part of this conversation and debate. And as I said, we've been there at the very beginning to really help make sure that those who are writing these bills get this right and understand that there are absolutely guardrails that need to be placed, but there are a lot of positive opportunities in the innovation and entrepreneurship space that would be very good for the U.S. public. And we want to make sure that everything is on the table in terms of good policy and good legislation. This was by far not the only thing that happened in the AI space. You may recall that several months ago, when Senate Majority Leader Schumer first started rolling out some AI packages in terms of legislation and conferences and press. He started doing these forums. The very first one was very high profile because it had Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk and a handful of well-known tech industry titans, CEOs, leaders. But now that we've kind of moved on a little bit, we're at the fourth one. And IEEE-USA has been consulted during this process and asked for some recommendations for names of people who could be a part of and participate in these events. And we were very pleased that Julia Stoyanovich of NYU participated in the fourth session. She is a very active and well thought of AI policy committee member within our policy committees here at IEEE-USA. Her statement is on the web. You can take a look at it and look at it in length. But this is just sort of another proud example for us of how we are at the table. We have great contacts and relationships with policymakers on this very, very important issue. And I suspect, in fact, I'm quite confident that this will be a very prominent issue moving forward for some time now. As if you needed more, this is just a few other things that were going on in the AI space in the last few weeks. There was new legislation in the Senate introduced yesterday on testing and evaluation systems. There's a Accountability Act for AI that moved out of the House Energy and Commerce Committee and will be ready for full House floor action should they schedule it. IEEE is working on comments to submit to the U.S. Office of Management and Budget in their request for comments on agency use of AI. This is obviously something that many U.S. government entities want to get right. And so there's a lot of activity around that. We, IEEE-USA Government Relations, as well as our members, have also been continuing in a series of conversations and meetings with a number of lawmakers and staffs on Capitol Hill about issues like deepfakes, as well as standards as they relate to biases, algorithmic discrimination, that sort of thing. And we are very proud to be co-hosting an event in a couple of weeks here called the Athens Roundtable on AI and the Rule of Law. This is the 5th annual event focusing on rule of law and AI. It will be here in Washington, D.C., and we'll bring in a number of U.S. senators, U.S. representatives, members of the diplomatic community, members of the federal agencies, and we are very proud to be one of a handful of co-hosts and participants in this. So we're looking forward to a great event there. This is by far not the only issue going on, but there's a reason that it tends to be very, very hot. Politicians are by no means dumb. They know that in order to keep doing what they're doing and keep pressing the policies that they believe in, they got to get reelected. And they are very aware that, first of all, we are 1 year away from the 2024 elections, which is not just a presidential election, obviously, but it's got huge implications for the House and the Senate. And artificial intelligence generally is becoming a much more high-profile issue among the American public, with a lot of concern and a lot of confusion and a lot of fear. It's very rare that you get an issue like this that polls almost universally across the political and ideological spectrum. But when 60% of both Democrats and Republicans polled feel the same way about a particular issue, that tells you that it matters, and the elected officials in this town are doing now what they need to be doing, in their minds at least, to respond and pay attention. So I think 2024, from a policy perspective, and certainly from a tech policy perspective, will be very much dominated by artificial intelligence. And if you remember the conversation and debate a few years ago around semiconductors and the CHIPS Act, I think you will see a very similar, extremely robust, very high level, very multifaceted policy conversation around AI in 2024, similar to what CHIPS was. We are excited about that happening if that's where it goes, because I think, like I've said before, we are well positioned, and a number of our members, maybe some of you, have proven to be, absolute godsends in helping us to communicate this message and understand that there's absolutely a way to do this right and a way to do this wrong. And we are finding every table that we need to be at, and so far have had a really good reception on Capitol Hill in the agencies, and we look to do a lot more of that in 2024. I mentioned the CHIPS Act. We continue to be in the implementation phase of that sweeping piece of legislation. One thing that I just wanted to call to folks' attention, NIST is holding 2 different 2-day workshops in about a month on a very technical level on chips and on the implementation phase of the CHIPS Act. Both of these are in person here at the Rockville, Maryland NIST headquarters, but I think it looks like there are virtual options as well. I certainly encourage anybody interested to go sign up, register. IEEE will be involved because this does deal with standards. And obviously this is in our wheelhouse, but I wanted to kind of just flag this one as just another one of those action items that are going on with respect to the CHIPS Act, which continues to be a very big, important issue for us and our members. And just as an FYI, we are also helping to put on an event here in the U.S. Capitol next week. IEEE Future Directions will be presenting on their digital privacy model and sort of rethinking how digital privacy should be handled at the federal regulatory level. We are going to have a number of speakers and panelists, including officials from the Department of Homeland Security and US DOE. We are working here at GR to make sure that a number of congressional staffers are invited and are made aware of this. We're going to be hosting it in the US Capitol building, so it's going to be a really great event on a really topical issue. What's going to be interesting is that is the Monday that starts the week that the government could be shut down by the end. So taking temperatures and pulses on Capitol Hill among the staffers and folks that work up there will be very interesting. But hopefully this will be a nice little distraction for folks as well. That leads me into next year because we're going to be excited to bring everybody to Capitol Hill for our annual Congressional Visits Day. We have spring 2024 marked on the slide here, but I can tell you that it will most likely be April. We've got a couple dates in mind that we just need our board to approve, and then we will start pushing out invites on that. As I said before, I think we're going to be spending a lot of time talking about AI as well as potentially CHIPS implementation, and there may be several other issues that we're going to want to talk about. It's a little too early to predict, but we really hope that all of you will consider coming out for that. It's an absolutely outstanding opportunity to walk the halls of Congress, meet with legislators and staff, and really pitch the message that IEEE-USA is all about. And so we look forward to having everybody here. I will make a couple of housekeeping announcements here at the government relations level. We are very sad to announce that we're going to be losing two of our stalwarts here on the team. Both Aline and James will be leaving us in the next couple of months or couple of weeks. I think combined, they've got nearly 20 years experience here at IEEE-USA, and they will be missed. As a result of that, and also just because of calendar issues, we're going to push these updates to monthly for the foreseeable future. We look to 2024 to be a really big year for IEEE-USA and certainly for the government relations team, as I look to restaff and retool a lot of what we're doing, including some of these outward-facing messages and programs. I certainly welcome feedback from all of you in terms of what you want to hear from us, what you like, what maybe we could do differently. But this will be the last bi-weekly update. The next one will be a month from now. So that's all I have. I can't obviously take questions live, but I certainly welcome any phone calls or emails. If anybody has any follow-up to what I've said here or any questions moving forward or just feedback generally. So I will stop there. I will say thank you very much, and we will talk to you again in a month.
There's cybersecurity issues, there's aging infrastructure issues, there's climate change issues that need to be solved, and I'm really excited that in my career I get to work on those types of problems. As a young professional, IEEE has given me access to opportunities to go to conferences, meet really cool people in the field, and so I think what IEEE provides is access to the larger community, and I don't know where else you would get that. IEEE-USA is my competitive edge.